Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar from Smith School of Business. My name is Meredith Dault, and I'm a business journalist at Smith School of Business here at Queen's. And I want to begin today by acknowledging that Queen's is situated on the traditional Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territories, and that we're grateful to be able to live, learn, and play on these lands. It is my pleasure to welcome you to today's presentation on reclaiming and upgrading your work habits, where we're going to be learning effective strategies to simplify work and achieve better results. And I may get schooled on how my habits are really out of line, but we'll see. As always, today's webinar is presented by Smith Business Insight and by Queen's Executive Education. Before we get started with the presentation, I do want to remind you that yes, today's session will be recorded. Just by being signed up today, you're going to automatically receive a link to the recording, which will be active for 2 weeks. You'll be getting that by email in a couple of days. You will not be getting access to the slides, but you will get a recording and you can watch that for 2 weeks, and I hope you will. We have a lot to pack into today's presentation, but our speaker will be taking questions in the last few minutes of the presentation. So if you want to ask a question, I hope you will, use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, not the chat function. Q&A button only. Okay, thank you. Finally, this is exciting today. At the end of the webinar today, we're going to be giving away some books. So we have 2 copies of Workday Warrior, A Proven Path to Reclaiming Your Time, and 2 copies of The Email Warrior, How to Clear your inbox and keep it that way, which are all signed by our guest, Ann Gomez. And you are only eligible to win a book by attending the session live this afternoon. We're going to be drawing names from among those who are in attendance today. We're going to let people know by email that they won. So please stay tuned for that. Now, it is my pleasure to get to introducing our guest, the wonderful Ann Gomez. Ann is the founder of the global training organization Clear Concept. She is passionate about empowering people to perform at their best and has 20 years of experience delivering inspiring and practical workshops and keynotes about productivity, collaboration, mindset, and well-being, and has been featured in the Globe and Mail and the Wall Street Journal, among other publications, and has appeared on CTV and CBC Radio. A USA Today bestselling author, her latest book, Workday Warrior, is now available. And as I say, we do have 2 copies of it, along with 2 copies of The Email Warrior, to give away to you who are in attendance today, 4 lucky winners. So stay tuned. It's now my pleasure to hand the floor over to Ann. I'm going to stay on today, but I'm just going to stay out of the way until Ann calls me in. So Ann, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Meredith. And I'm so thrilled to be here with all of my fellow Queens, Smith School of Business alum. I absolutely had such a good time when I was doing my MBA there. And so thrilled to be back. Today, we are going to do the good old fashioned, the new 2023 version of Raise Your Hands, which is called polls. So I'm going to put the poll link in the chat. It's also will be on the slides. There it is. We'll be asking our first poll question very soon. And Meredith, I'm looking forward to today's session with you. So
my pleasure to be here with you. Let's go.
Excellent. Yes. Okay. So today, in the next 45 minutes or so, what I'd love to do is help everyone on today's call tackle the biggest challenges, time challenges in the modern working world. And the 3 solutions are to clarify, to fortify, and to simplify. And these attack the biggest time challenges, which is we're all trying to do too much at the same time, too many priorities. There's not enough of us to go around. We have not yet figured out how to clone ourselves. And sometimes work is a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. So with that, let's dive in to clarify. Now, the first thing we all say, and Meredith, I'm guessing you've said this to yourself already today. I've certainly said it to myself, is whenever we get busy, we say, got to prioritize. It's an excellent theory. They teach it to us back at school, right? It promises, has all these great promises, but is it living up to its brand? So let's consider all of our portfolios of work. Now, I recognize a lot of us have different roles, but let's just hypothetically say you have a number of different client obligations, programs you're overseeing. There's marketing stuff, there's operations, there's this, there's that. And that's just kind of the day-to-day work. There's also all those projects you're involved in, or maybe you're on some committees. And by the way, you have 6 direct reports, so there's also stuff to do for your team. And then there's supporting tasks. I don't know about you, Meredith, but like there's tons of that stuff. Like I've got this credit card I got that the it came with this point system, and it's a little bit messed up. I got to call and deal with it. Like, we all have crap like that I don't want to not do it. It's not a priority, but I don't want to not do it. We all have stuff like that. Plus, oh my goodness, my brain lights up with new ideas on a daily basis. And there's all this new stuff that we can do. This world is limitless. This universe is incredible. There's so many cool things we can do. Plus, we have distractions. And then, oh my goodness, there's also the personal work, right? Those cats of mine, they don't book their own vet appointment. So we all have this stuff that has to get done. So Meredith, I mean, representing everybody on today's call, does this feel representative of your life?
Yes.
And does it feel overwhelming, right?
Rather, yes, that's a lot of dots.
Yes, it's a lot of dots. So let's check in with everyone else. How's prioritization working for you? How's it working for you? It's a great theory. How's it working for you? Okay, so we're seeing a lot of numbers in the 1 to 3 range. We've got some in the 4. That's fantastic. Whoever's in the 5, if you could call me and teach me, that it would be awesome. This is great. Okay, so the challenge here is very few of us are finding prioritizations working. And then if we go back to all those balls we're juggling, there's so much in the air. How do we track it all? So this is another question I really like to ask, because people typically have a number of different task tracking systems. They use their memory, they have handwritten lists, they use spiral bound notebooks. I know, Meredith, you did a short video about yours.
I am happy to share mine because I know it's humiliating for me, but there you go.
It's not humiliating.
I'm a big fan of the notebook because I like to argue that I'm a visual person. So the notebook helps me, but you're going to tell me why that's not true.
Visual is good. I'm a visual person too. Visual is good. And we can make it even more effective. Okay, so a lot of people are putting deadlines in their calendar. They have various to-do apps. You can see these answers popping up, right, Meredith?
Mm-hmm.
And then reminders. Oh my gosh, reminders. I don't mean to judge, but that is the most useless form of technology. I'll come back to that in a moment. Anyways, what we're seeing here with the numbers jumping around is most people are using more than one system to track their tasks. And as a result, we end up playing whack-a-mole. We got to look here. We got to look there. What if I don't look underneath that file and there's that Post-it note with the clear reminder to do that thing that Meredith is depending on me to do? And if you come to me and say, Meredith, why didn't you do that thing? And you, Meredith, come to me and say, Anne, why didn't you do that thing? And I say, oh, I forgot. Like, that doesn't really cut it at this level in our career. So we need a very good system. And someone just put in the chat, Alexa for reminders. That's a first. I haven't heard that. That's awesome. Anyways, when we are using too many different disparate systems to track our work, it doesn't cut it at the level we're playing at right now. This might have worked back in the day. Remember those days, Meredith, when we thought we were busy and then, to be so busy? Like, we're at a whole new level now. As your career, as your life evolves, you take on more and more. We need a system that elevates with us. We need a system that doesn't create this chaos, right? Doesn't kind of have this opportunity for tasks to get lost. So we want to shift away from competing priorities, multiple systems, right? Limitless tasks, no clear ranking of when we're going to do stuff, and shift over to 3 core priorities. If we had more time, I'd get into the magic 3, right? Not 19 priorities, 3 priorities. And this is true at an organization level. And this is true at an individual level, right? And it percolates that whole it's like a cascade throughout an organization where all priorities are linked, like a beautiful waterfall. And then we have a clear ranking of when we'll do tasks. And we have one mothership, one central, one list, one place to track our work. So let's dive into a little bit more of this, which I call your priority management system. Now, let's be clear. This is a to-do list. But to-do list is, as we saw, people have a variety of lists. They don't typically invest take their to-do list to the level it needs to play at to meet them where they are in life. So let's rebrand this as your priority management system. And with your priority management system, you group your work into 3 primary buckets. And so just hypothetically, it might be client work, project work, teamwork. And we wear different hats and we have different focuses when we're focusing on each of these. And we want to be clear on our time budget also. For example, if clients take 3/4 of your 75% of your time, and team takes 20% of your time, you don't have time to take on 7 projects at once. So you really want to kind of have that trade-off to make sure supply equals demand. Your supply of hours you're dedicating to any one area of your life equals the demand on your time. And then we're clear on future priorities. So, and of course, we're sprinkling in the supporting and personal tasks on, as we can. But the future priority, this is one that took me this is one I still struggle with, frankly. So Meredith, for example, I want to launch a podcast and I think about it. And I think it's going to be awesome. And like, I could talk for the rest of this session about this potential podcast I'd like to write, and another book I would like to write, and this and that, this study. I want to do a study of high performance teams. These all live in future priority land. If I start to dip my toe in the water and start to just like, oh, let me just take one phone call with this podcast, coordinator, and what's one phone call? But then it takes away time from my core priority. So I can swap out if I want, or I can say, let me focus here, achieve my goals here, then elevate one of the future priorities. So that line is so crucial for all of us to know where that line stands. Now, of course, this begs the question, where does your priority management system live? Well, first, priority management system, that's a bit of a mouthful. It's really begging for an acronym, right? PMS, that acronym's kind of taken. So let's call it your MAP, your main action plan. And here is an example of what your map could look like. So what I would love to do, Meredith, is kind of drive right over to your office after this session and sit down with you with your notebook. And then let's carve out the tasks and let's decide, what are your core priorities? What are your 3 big buckets? And then align the tasks underneath with this very clear ranking underneath each of your core priorities. So, and we're using deadline as the proxy. There's a lot of ways we can rank our tasks. We can rank it based on, do I feel like doing the task? Who's asking for it? Oh, they look at Zoom, just put up a little thumb for me. Is it a big task? Is it a quick win, right? What's the squeaky wheel? Do I feel guilty about, like, there's a lot of vague ways to rank a task. I suggest we get rid of all that vagueness because it just creates this chaos and this, constant recalibrating. What do I do next? And instead, at the time of intake, at the time we accept the task, we add a deadline and we negotiate with someone else on that deadline. We suggest a deadline if a deadline isn't offered, and we clearly list the order we're going to do the tasks. And then time management really does become as simple as doing the next thing on the list, focusing on the next task, and obviously pacing ourselves, right? If you ask me to do something for November 20th, Meredith, and I'm pretty jammed for November 20th. How's November 21st? Or maybe I shift one of these other things. So this helps me manage my own capacity, which is important.
That makes sense.
Okay, so where do we build this map? Well, it's not our memory, and we all knew that, right? Like, a lot of people tuck things up here in the vault, but that we know that doesn't work. If I was to do a test of my memory, and I think I go back to my school days and studying for exams, right? If you get an 8 out of 10, that's an A, like, that's great. That is a solid mark. In the workplace, if you remember to do 8 out of 10 things you commit to do for your clients, do you still get these, rave reviews? Absolutely not. The expectation when you get to this level is 10 out of 10. So we don't want to rely on our memory. Our to-do list tends to sit in our short-term memory. The capacity for our short-term memory, the resting state, of course, we can do in mind exercises to grow it, but that's not what most of us spend our days doing. Our resting state is between 3 to 5 items. And, a good test for that obviously is, I think, going to, like, have you ever gone to Costco without a list, Meredith? Like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
You not bring home the dish soap that was the thing you went for.
Yes. Exactly. But 78 new sweaters. Yeah. Okay. So the other thing is in terms of where our map lives, Meredith, this, I know this does hurt, but your spiral bound notebook is not your map. And your spiral bound notebook is a great place to take notes. And then I would tear out the notes and put them in a dedicated home for that project, for that initiative, whatever it is, right? I don't love the miscellaneous nature of spiral bound notebooks, right? It would be like in my kitchen, if you came to my kitchen, I didn't have this beautiful cutlery drawer with a divider, and you said to me, hey, Ann, can I grab a spoon? And I was like, yeah, just open any drawer, you'll find a spoon. Like, That's not how we treat our stuff. The same is true with our information, right? So spiral bound notebooks are just miscellaneous catch-alls. That's why I'm not a fan of them. Again, Meredith, you can keep yours, just tear out the notes related to the project of the initiative, whatever it is, and put it in a dedicated home for that. And obviously, I'm even more of a fan of going digital, right? So maybe we should all get kind of the digital note-taking devices. Calendars, it doesn't give you that one forest through the trees perspective. The post-it notes, like, what if a dog eats it? Like, also our inbox, not our to-do list. Our inbox is not our to-do list. If we were going back to 1995, where you got 4 emails a day, it's not a big deal. But with you getting 400 emails a day now, it doesn't work. Things are not ranked in the order you plan to do it. So where do you build your map? Well, these tools work very well for anyone in a large organization where there are kind of firewall and kind of IT stipulations. There are other tools as well. If you work for a smaller organization, if you're an independent contractor, if you're a business owner of a smaller organization, you may have more flexibility to use like tools like ClickUp or Todoist, or some organizations have Asana. But generally, I find that anyone at a large organization, lots of people are using Outlook Tasks. It's a great tool. We're going to share in the email after the Smith School of Business is going to provide you with guides on how to set up your map in Outlook Tasks or OneNote or Microsoft To Do, or you can just create a simple list in Word or Excel. Any of these tools work as long as it's one complete and central list. One complete and central list categorized by your core priorities. Then you've got your personal stuff, supporting tasks. Commitment. Commitment is the deadline. We don't just want a someday maybe list. That's fine for your future priorities. But anything you've decided to do, you've committed to do, you want a deadline. Deadlines drive productivity. Do you agree with that, Meredith? Deadlines drive productivity.
Otherwise, it's kind of a vague future focus. Keep pushing it back.
I mean, let's be honest. Otherwise, I'm going to procrastinate on it if I don't have a deadline.
Except that deadlines are tough on personal things, because aren't you setting them for yourself, and can't you just let yourself down?
I mean, sure. But like, I kind of think deadlines you set for yourself is kind of like setting your alarm clock 5 minutes early or 10 minutes early. And like my alarm clock will go off like 15 minutes early, and I'll be, I wake up enough to turn it off. And I'm like, who's kidding who? I'm not getting up now, right? I'm too smart for my alarm clock to, trick me that way. And we're the same with deadlines when we set for ourselves. I'll get this to Meredith by Friday. I'm not going to tell her because I don't want to box myself in a corner. I'll get it to her by Friday. Anyways, Friday, 3 o'clock comes along, and Meredith, like, I have a lot of respect for you, but I'm not going to do it. I'm just telling you. Okay. If I have a deadline, I'll do it. And so if it's important for me, it's important, whatever the task is, it's important for me to support you. It's important for me to advance my own goals. I'm going to set a deadline. Deadlines drive productivity. And of course, we need to consult this tool, right? Otherwise, it's a make work tool, make work project, and we don't want that. So what I love about Outlook Tasks, I'm just showing a quick snapshot here, is you can categorize your tasks by category and see them, right? So when you're wearing this hat and you're focusing on this type of work, you simply work through the list, or, similarly for your other core priorities. This is what OneNote looks like. OneNote can also function as a great place to take notes. There's also another version of this, Evernote. Again, if you are organization allows you to use, Evernote can work. OneNote is a great tool, though. Maybe something to consider shifting away from instead of spiral bound notebooks. The only thing is, I'm still not a fan of the typing during meetings. It kind of looks like we're doing email, but also an excellent tool for your map. And then here's what Microsoft To Do would look like. So there's a few different tools out there.
Can I interrupt you just for a second? So
Yes.
presumably this is on your phone or something as well, because ideas about things you have to do are coming up all the time. So I just found this sitting at my desk. This is a personal to-do list. You'll see it's not in the notebook. It is on its own scrap. But presumably, like, this kind of thing happens when you're, making dinner or walking the dog. So you need to be able to add to this master list, is what you're saying, at all times.
Yeah, for sure.
Or am I transferring my scrap over to my master list?
Absolutely. Yes. Okay. And you want access to
Thank you, Jennifer Complin, who likes my scrap. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for participating, Jennifer, but I violently disagree with you. I respectfully, that was harsh. I respectfully disagree with you, Jennifer. Yes, I agree. Scrap paper is fun. It's fun, right? So if you're working on a project and you have some things that you want to do for scrap paper, kind of just jot down your ideas, sure. But at the end of that working session, it goes in the garbage day. You want your map, your personal map and your professional map to be accessible on your devices. So, the tools I've shown generally are accessible from your phone. Of course, it depends on your organization's settings. And if you use a tablet, make sure it's available on your tablet too. So that way, Meredith, you can just enter it into your map right away and don't need the scrap paper. Because what happens if you're not working in the office tomorrow and you leave the scrap paper there? Like, you want this paper, you want your map accessible. And 10 years ago, I used to say, yeah, print your map because people are visual, and you could print your map, Meredith, but when you kind of write on it and edit it, now you've got the make work project of updating it, because maps get pretty outdated very quickly. Oh, this chat is
this chat is amazing. I was going to say, we
holy moly.
Firstly, people are offering a lot of advice, and then a lot of people are defending notes, scraps, and
sorry,
and
Jennifer.
also offering other tools that might also be useful. So people can be like picking away through this to get some ideas.
Love it, love it, love it.
Jump on board with paperless and scraps.
So my suggestion for all of you is to centralize all of your lists, one central mothership, and then you can use that to plan your day. And planning your day could be, so here you go, Jennifer, this is for you. Planning your day can be on a Post-it note, handwritten list. And then we will get the joy of crossing stuff off. Like, Meredith, do you find that that's one of life's greatest joys, crossing things off?
Things crossed off on my list here.
Okay. Yeah. So see, look at me compromising. You can do a daily plan. And I like the 3+3, right? 3 must do's, 3 nice to do's. These are bonuses. So it's just kind of really simple. But at the end of today, this goes in the garbage. This is gonzo, right? We don't keep that. That's not a collector's item. And it's not everything we're doing. Everything we're doing is on our map. That's the mothership. This is the satellite ship. And you can also do a digital version. For those of you.
I like the idea of the satellite ship, and I think others will as well. We are satellite ship people.
Okay, good. Yeah, okay. Excellent. Well, with that, I feel like we've found some nice alignment. Let's move on to Fortify, which is really designed to address the fact that there just doesn't seem to be enough time in the day. And one of the things that gets in our way is multitasking. And I tell you, back when I was doing my MBA, I thought multitasking was the secret. I love the economic promise behind it. If I have 2 things to do, I might as well do them at the same time. I'll just layer them on top of each other. And for anyone on today's call right now who has email open on a second screen, right? I was with someone yesterday, he's like, I've used 3 screens. And I'm like, whoa, what we know now, what I didn't know 2 decades ago, but what we know now is that multitasking does not work. We know the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. We know if we start with a blank screen, we've got to do a draft of a document. The best way to get there, the most efficient, most effective, highest quality, right? Fastest timeline is to focus exclusively on that task, not to be processing emails, chats, a couple conversations, pet our dog, grab a coffee, come back, check email one more time, and then come back to the document, right? That's unfortunately what most people's days looks like. Meredith, can you relate?
Yes.
This is not an intervention.
Yes.
Okay.
Somebody else said guilty is charged about having their email open. And yes, indeed, guilty is charged for that looking like my day. Yes.
So most people would agree multitasking doesn't work. They agree with the straight line approach. And yet this is happening all the time. So my question for everyone now, our next poll is, how often do you find you're pulled in multiple directions? Is this a once in a while, or is this like all the time?
So I'm all the time, I have to confess.
Okay.
I am famous for having 8 million tabs open. And also, I'm sorry, but we live in an era where we have a second screen always at our disposal, always open, asking for our attention. So yeah,
it's true. I had a client one time admit to the fact that like emails would pop on his phone faster, the satellites would send it to his phone faster, and he'd pick it up and he'd read it. And then like 3 nanoseconds later, the beep would go off on his second monitor and he would be like, intellectually, he knew it was the same flipping message, but he would still chat.
Dopamine hit, dopamine hit, dopamine hit.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so Meredith,
Yeah.
what we're seeing here in the answers is this is so common for the vast majority of
I'm
everyone.
glad I'm not alone, at least.
You're not alone. This
Yeah.
this is consistent with what I see across the board. We know multitasking doesn't work, and yet it's happening all the time. And let's be clear, when I'm talking about multitasking, I'm talking about cognitively processing things, right? Like I can walk and chew gum and I don't trip mostly. Like I'm usually really good at that. But when I'm processing two things, when I'm working on a document, I've got to think through it. And then I got to, I read an email and I'm thinking through that. I cannot do those two things at the same time. So and yet it's happening all the time for people. Let's consider the cost. So Meredith, would you like to play a little game with me?
Yes, I am ready for you.
Yes. Okay. I call it a game, but you and I both know it's a test, right, Meredith?
And it's a test that I get to do in front of all of these fine people.
Exactly. No pressure. No pressure. Okay. So I'm going to time you, Meredith. I just pulled up my handy dandy little timer here. And what I'd like you to do, and everyone can join along, play along. I do encourage you to play along at home. You can use your magic finger if you don't have a pen and just pretend you're writing, or use a pen and a piece of paper. So Meredith, if you could write out Workday Warrior and the numbers 1 through 14, 1, 2, 3, all the, nothing fancy, Meredith, just please write one line of text and then write the other line of text.
Okay,
and this is an exercise adapted from The Myth of Multitasking by Dave Crenshaw. You don't have to write the stuff at the bottom. Just.
Are we timing me?
And I'm going to time you. So just if you've started at home, please, we're all going to start at the same time at W. On your mark. Get set, go. Raise your hand when you're done, please, Meredith.
Woo! There it is.
Excellent. Fantastic. Beautiful. I like that you're showing me too. Okay, so that was 15 seconds. So you wrote one line of text, and then you wrote another line of text.
Yeah.
Now, if you're up for doing it a second time, I'd love to invite you to do it a second time, and I will time you as well. But this time, I'd like you to toggle back and forth.
This is so fun.
It's going to be fun. Okay, so W1, O2, R3, all the way to the end. You will produce the same output. You don't need to do the orange lines. Please don't do the orange lines. I want your output to look the same. Workday Warrior, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 14. Got it?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll put the orange lines there to guide you, but just to guide, you don't have to write the orange lines. On your mark, get set, go. Raise your hand when you're done, please.
W1. Oh, this is going to test my 3. K, 4. This is not easy. D, 5. Is everyone else doing this? I hope so, because oh my gosh, I can not even count right now. 7, 8. Oh my gosh, can we just jump ahead, because we know obviously that this is ridiculous. Okay, is everyone else doing this? Oh my gosh, she's making me wait till the end so we can see what a mess I made. Okay, I did it.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay, well done. So that was 38 seconds. So the first time was 15 seconds. The second time was 38 seconds. So
also, I'm pretty sure I made a mistake. This is like
100
here.
4% more time. Like it took you 154% more time. Like that's a lot of extra time. And this exercise is pretty simple. This is pretty simple. So let's be clear. What was I trying to get you to do here? This was an example of focusing, right? Focusing on one task, then shifting gears and focusing on another task. And in this example, I was asking you to, I'm going to say multitask, but we're not actually multitasking. That term is a misnomer. The truth is, what we're doing when we're cognitively processing something is we are switch tasking between two different tasks. Would you agree with that, Meredith?
Yeah. So that was the confusing thing. The spelling and the counting were just like, oh.
Yeah. And so people do this all day long. They're constantly switching from one thing to another. Again, it's not something that's happening on autopilot, like, walking and chewing gum. It's the stuff that we have to process, cognitively process, right? So thank you so much for doing that on behalf of everyone. I know
we've got some great comments here in the chat. So thank you to all of you who admitted your errors. And also, some people said they did it fast, but they made mistakes, or they used wrote the letter number 3 twice. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, exactly. And this is awesome. Like, this is exactly what we see. Thank you for all these comments, everyone.
I had 6 twice. I had 3 twice. I have 15 numbers.
I know. And Chrissy's missing the 12. What happened to 12? Right. Kalechi is like, I gave up. That's it. I'm done. Right.
So what you're saying is, aren't we lucky this isn't an important email? Is that what you're saying?
There, yeah, exactly.
Oh,
So
sorry, Jenny. I was talking while she was trying to do it. So I'm pretending your colleague who's yammering away while you're multitasking.
amazing. So we saw three things happen the second time. One, it took us way longer. And so if this was something you were working on, Meredith, let's say you draft a document and it would take an hour if a focus work. What we saw here is sorry, yours took 250% more time.
Oh, thanks for rubbing it in. Can I just shout out to who is it who says she had no problem? Oh, Tracy. Tracy did both equally fast. Does that mean she can effectively multitask? That's probably
you might be superhuman there, Tracy. You might be. There is it is so rare that I see that. And I do find there are some, okay, so it's just with everyone else, just plug your ears, but this is for Tracy only. There is some evidence that some people can multitask better than others. And I'm only saying that to you, Tracy, because I don't want everyone else on today's call to say, oh, yes, I'm like Tracy, I'm going to multitask, right? It does not work. It takes us way longer, right? And this is a simple Mickey Mouse exercise. So Meredith, on your complex work, do you think you lose more time than you lost on this when you're switching back and forth?
No, I'm actually even conscious of it. And also how long it takes to get back into the task once you've left it to go do something else and you come back. And I do. Yeah.
And there is that evidence also that there's a delay before once we get interrupted, I'm like, oh, I might as well check my email, grab my coffee, come back, talk to Meredith, then I'll go back to the original document. So, and we make mistakes. We're seeing that, you talked about that, Meredith. We've seen that light up in the chat. So that's a second drawback of multitasking. The other drawback, which I think is really important, and someone said it in the chat here, I quickly saw it, is that it feels harder. And this is where I encourage people to kind of lean. Let's talk about our feelings here, Meredith. How did it feel for you the second time?
I felt like I had to really think about how to count to 14. Like I really had to think about that.
And someone in the chat said it felt stressful. Do you feel it felt stressful?
Well, yeah, because there was the time crunch. So I'm trying to do it as fast as I did the other one. And then I'm in my, my inner voice actually gets in there going like, you can't even write the numbers 1 to 14. Like, there's all sorts of stuff we get into.
Exactly. And this is like a consistent report when I do this exercise with large audiences is most people say it was harder. It felt more frustrating, felt more overwhelming, and I felt stress. I consistently hear that word come out, stress. And we know multitasking layers the stress on our work. And most of us are already carrying a fair bit of pressure already. So the last thing we want to do is layer stress on top. So focusing is the way to go, right? It is so much huge, by a huge margin, so much faster, so much better, it leads to higher quality work, which we're all striving for high quality work. And it's easier. It is so much easier. And this is not new. That came about when we all started getting smartphones, right? We've known this for thousands of years. So what I encourage everyone to do is to lean into focus between their meetings. Now, when we're in a meeting with someone else, we're great at focus, right? So Meredith, if you and I are in a meeting, I'm in your office, sitting across, your desk, and we're chatting, I would give you my undivided focus. I would not say in the middle of the meeting, oh, wait, hold on, Meredith. Wait. Hold. Hi, Mom. Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh, it was so good to see everyone. Yeah, I can try and get that recipe. Absolutely.
All right. Back at it, Ann.
I mean, we don't do that. We don't do that. Now, Meredith, if you and I are having a meeting and our colleague calls who's about to head into a big presentation, I might say, oh, Meredith, there's, Robert calling. Let me take this call. Hey, Robert, I'm putting you on speaker. I'm here with Meredith. How can we help? Right? Like we have a sense of what's urgent, and we're not going to eliminate every interruption. Interruptions are going to still come our way, and once in a while they're urgent. Once in a while, not 98% of the time, like 1-2% of the time, they're truly drop everything, got to deal with it now. And when they call us, which is what I like to call the safety net. Hey, Meredith, I just sent you an email. Have you had a chance to look at that? And you're like, no, Ann, that was 3 nanoseconds ago, but I'll take a look at it right now. I mean, you don't say that. That's just your inside voice, right? But like you say, no, Ann, I'm happy to look at it though, right? And so that phone call is our safety net, right? They can find us if it's truly urgent. They'll run down the hall. They'll say, hey, Meredith, have you seen Ann? They'll send a drone over top of your house. Like they will find us if they need it. And as a result, what I like to say is, we protect our focus by getting rid of the alerts. Like gonzo, gone, all gone, off, all alerts. Alerts are like a bag of chips, Meredith. I don't know if you're like me. So at lunch, I like to have a yummy salad with some protein on top. And I really do enjoy it. I love it. I enjoy it. It fills me up. It's a big, let's be clear, it's a big salad. But if you came and you put a bowl of chips, especially like salty chips beside my salad, I'm going to give you one guess which one I'm going to eat, Meredith.
Right. Yeah.
And
Fair.
before you answer, I will be licking the bowl. Like
Yeah.
email alerts are like a bag of chips. They're better out of sight, out of mind. And so, and the reason for that is because we are, and I'm going to say a word that sounds like an extreme word, but it's a legitimate word in this situation. We are addicted to checking. And there's many reasons in terms of how our brain has evolved as to why that's true. The temptation associated, this is based on research, the temptation associated with checking alerts stronger than the temptation associated with nicotine and alcohol.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
Yeah. So what do we do with those alerts? We get rid of them. And then between our meetings, we adopt this focus routine where we focus for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. You decide, right? Not 6 hours, right? Like we start to fade after 90 minutes. And that's actually dated research slightly. I think in this new age of constant connectivity, we start to fade after like 3 nanoseconds. So we want to build our focus and muscle again. Focus for 20 minutes. And during that time, there isn't a conspiracy where 16 people will send you urgent emails the second you start to focus. No, emails will come in randomly. And if you take 20 minutes to focus, on average, emails will sit there for 10 minutes, at which point none of us need to say, after 10 minutes, Meredith, I'm so sorry it's taking me so long to respond. Like, that's just not necessary. Do you agree, Meredith?
Yes, I do. In fact, I think we all apologize way too much.
Yeah, I know. So of course we want to think strategically about how we can manage interruptions, which we do when we are meeting with someone else. And I often like to encourage people to think about what are your sources of interruptions, and some are urgent. I get it. Some are urgent, but we're not trying to be perfect here. If we can minimize, instead of 45 interruptions in an hour, because that's frankly, like, we're probably getting 30 to 60 interruptions in an hour from all different data sources, right? But if you can minimize that to 1 or 2, then you're going to have so much more of that rich focus time. And what I think is so important to recognize is that we are our number one source of interruptions. I used to blame them. They could leave me alone. I could get my work done. And then I realized that when I'm trying to focus on something, I hit something that's hard and I think, I should probably just check my email, right? That's me interrupting myself.
No, that's true. I've actually started to pay attention to when it is I look for something else to do, and it's always when the thing is hard.
Always when it's hard. So what we should do instead, or what we not should, I'll delete the word should. What we could do to optimize our focus is give ourselves a goal and a duration. And the Pomodoro technique, which I'm sure many people have heard of, is you take a kitchen timer that looks like a tomato. Pomodoro is Italian for tomato. Or you can take your timer on your smartphone and set it for a certain length of time. Now, the official Pomodoro is 25 minutes, but you do you, right? 20 minutes, 45 minutes, you decide how much time. And hit the goal during that time. And at the end, when you're like, I just want to do email, past that finish line, and then reward yourself, which of course is check your email, right? Because look at us living our best life.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I have to say, and I'm a huge fan of the Pomodoro technique, and there are lots and lots of apps online.
Yes.
There are websites. There's a great website, which is mytomatoes.com, which is the only reason I got through grad school. That's the only way I wrote anything. Mytomatoes.com. In fact, I use a Kanban organizing app, and it has a built-in Pomodoro timer. I use that too. So anyway, I will highly recommend that technique, because I am not disciplined, except if an external app tells me working, then it's all I need. I just need someone to tell me to stay focused.
I'm right there with you, Meredith. I use the Pomodoro on a daily basis, And I find it's most effective when it's the hardest task, right?
Totally.
If it's easy, I'm totally motivated. Yeah, no, I don't need the timer.
Oh, now Trish, who's saying she hates the Pomodoro technique because the 25-minute window is too short. I'm sure you will
make it longer.
You can make it longer, right?
You can totally make it longer. Yeah. Of course, it depends on different apps. Will have different techniques. I'll use in the morning during my prime kind of energy time. I might do 45 minutes or an hour.
Yeah. And sorry, I just need to get that. It's Kanban Flow. The person who's asking, what's the Kanban app with Pomodoro? It's called Kanban Flow.
That is C or a K?
With a K, Kanban.
Okay.
Kanban's a whole nother thing, but for those of you who are kind of into Kanban Flow's got the option of a timer.
Oh, nice. I got to check this out.
Mm-hmm.
So what I love about the poll is the vast majority are saying, I'm either doing it or yes, I'm in, I'm willing to try it. And for the 12% of you who are saying, yeah, you don't understand. Just, you know what, why don't you pass along my contact info with whoever it is and we'll have it.
Take them out into the back alley and school them on the protecting their employees.
I'm just kidding. I respect you for that. I appreciate, and I will say that some roles don't require as much focus work. Like if you are, let's say, an IT professional, or you are like on the floor of the banking call center, right? Then you don't necessarily need as much focus time in your day because you're dealing with thing after thing after thing. So, there's 3 ways that we work. We do meetings, we have informal communication, which is email. Oh my goodness.
Wow, it's a party at your house.
I know. If you do 2 fingers, try it, Meredith. If you do 2 fingers, Zoom sometimes puts balloons out.
I got no balloons, but I feel
it's just random.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, so we have meetings, we have informal communications like the hallway conversations, the emails, the unscheduled calls, right? Those are all very important. And then we have focus work. And if your job, the nature of your role doesn't require as much focus work, then maybe you don't need this technique as much. Now, what I will say is we want to single task on the small tasks. So writing an email and someone says, hey, can I just ask you a question? It is okay to say, can you just give me 12 seconds left? I got to finish this thought now, turn to that. Or when something else pops in your mind, just maybe write on your daily plan and just finish one thing and move on to the next. So single tasking as much as we can is good for all of us.
Okay. I'd like to just keep drawing attention to the chat. So people are offering really great suggestions and some people are asking questions. So I encourage you guys to all keep discussion going there.
Oh, and I love Jennifer's. I never pick up unscheduled calls. Love it. Unless it's my boss. Yes.
I actually do want to highlight the person who did say, isn't this chat a distraction from listening to the webinar? Mm-hmm. So I just want to, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What
we don't have to dig into it.
So, one of my clients once said, because there's actually research that shows that our IQ goes down, our IQ goes down when we multitask. And I once had a client say, well, my IQ is pretty high, so I'm okay with that. So I think for most of you, there is enough redundancy in this webinar that you can also look at the chat a little bit as well. There's my answer to that. It's not perfect. If I was, I think we intuitively lean into what we need to do when the stakes are really high. When let's say you're presenting to your board and it's going to be a really intense conversation. You probably don't have Teams chat open, right? I think we all recognize, like, you've got your door closed. Someone comes, hey, can we talk about that meeting next Tuesday? No, not now. Go away. So we know that we need to single task when the stakes are high.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm a big fan of blocking your time, paying yourself first, right? We know that concept from a financial perspective. Many of you have probably heard the analogy of the glass vase where the professor puts the big rocks in first so that then there's room for the little rocks, the pebbles, the sand, the water, right? If we start with the little things, there's no room for the big rocks. So we want to really be paying ourselves first when we think from a more global perspective about our time, right? Protect time for your core priorities before other stuff gets in the way. Protect time for focus work, protect time for your well-being. All of these things, we want to kind of pay ourselves first. And of course we need to be flexible as needed, but here's a very light example of what I like to call a proactive routine. So let's say your job requires 4 hours of focus work a day-ish, right? And again, you've considered your working hours and how you're splitting that. What's the ideal allocation between meetings, focus work, and miscellaneous communications, emails, hallway conversations? That's at least 2 hours for people-ish. I mean, I'd have to learn more about each individual role, but people forget to allocate time for that stuff. That's easily 2 hours, right? If you're a leader, there's more, and you have more direct reports, you spend more time kind of walking the halls or having people come by. Hey, Meredith, can I just ask you a quick question? So, this is just an example, And everyone's got to think about what their time budget is. But, let's say you block time like this. And what I've done for myself, I like 2 hours minimum every day of focus work. So from now until the rest of the year, and I want to go and do Q1 shortly, is I've gone ahead and done a recurring calendar entry, 2 1-hour time blocks, 9 to 10 and 10 to 11. Now, if Meredith, you said to me, there's a meeting at 9 a.m. and it's the only time we can kind of meet with our client. I'm not going to say, I'm sorry, I do my focus work. No, I'll say, of course, I'll come and I'll shift the time down here, or I'll put it on Thursday, or, I'll shift as needed. I'll be flexible as needed. What we want to really consider, and there's a reason why I had that focus work in the morning, is because most of our energy oscillations look like this, where we have peak energy in the morning, a trough 7 hours after we wake, and then a recovery late afternoon, early evening. Now, early birds, are you an early bird, Meredith?
I'm like a middle bird, but I definitely
I'm a middle bird too.
A middle bird. I can't work at night for sure, and I'm not really good early, but the day is really great for me. But morning, especially morning, is best for writing, and I do a lot of writing.
Yeah, and that's where you want to, tie your most strategic, your hardest, your biggest priorities to your peak energy. All right, so I'm married to an early bird. He starts 2 hours earlier than I do. Like, they just start earlier, so that this would be shifted. The night owls, this is flipped. So night owls may start their day later. Maybe their workday starts 9, 9:30, 10. But they're not in terrible shape at that time. They're in their recovery phase. Then they have their trough 7 hours after the waking. Then they have their peak. And their peak is not 11 o'clock at night. Their peak is late afternoon, early evening. So this is the general research. Everyone's got to kind of really lean into when their peak energy is, and that's the best time to pay yourself first. So for the most part, I really do try and push meetings to the afternoon. Now, if you're an introvert and you're saying, I need to be at my peak to talk to other human beings, of course, then you're going to adjust your schedule accordingly. With your routines, I also encourage you to be very specific and deliberate about all these pillars of well-being. And so this includes, sleep, exercise, time to prepare healthy nutrition, all of these pillars. And so your well-being routines will have morning routines and will have evening routines. This would be assuming you have daytime working hours. There are likely people who have shift work on today's call. And to be very deliberate about it. And we're pretty good about like fitness. A lot of people work with fitness trainers, or they arrange to go for a walk with friends, or whatever that may be. And that really kind of ties into the routine, the predictability, the accountability, right? All of this is to say, like, let's just really lean into the fact that we are creatures of habit. Right? Like, I am great at brushing my teeth. See how good my teeth are. Even if I'm super tired, Meredith, I'm great at brushing my teeth. And even I started a flossing habit after years of like the week after and before the dentist. I was great at flossing, but otherwise I was hit and miss. But I developed a habit by committing to tiny steps. That's some of the latest science around habit formation is commit to tiny steps. So commit to flossing 1, 2, and usually you floss all of them, but we are creatures of habit. So the routines help build habits around what we value most. Mm-hmm. Now we have a few more minutes left together, and I want to share a framework for simplifying. So this is something that we can do kind of the cherry on top in terms of time management. As we talked about earlier, over time, life has gotten busier. And personally, professionally, right? There's gutters to clean. There's a parent to drive somewhere. There's just now you've got a team, whatever it is, right? So a lot of people hit these time ceilings where they're like, I can't keep up anymore. And what we all need to lean into consciously and unconsciously is finding ways to simplify. And really, we have 3 solutions. We can scale back, we can streamline, and we can seek help. And what I'd love to do is to open up the another poll question now and hear some ideas about ways that people streamline, scale back, seek help. And I'll share one thing that I did yesterday. I was very proud of myself. There was an email going back and forth on my team, and I was like, oh, I have an idea. I'm going to weigh in on this. And then I held back, and I pretended my kind of alter ego was sitting on my shoulder and said, Anne, do you need to weigh in on this? Right? Or can you just let them manage it? And so I held back, and I had to like really talk myself down off of the email here. And what happened is, one, I didn't add to the email traffic. They managed it perfectly, like great. and it didn't add to my day. Like, so there really is this kind of beauty in just stepping back and not, aiming for perfection, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Yeah. So those are all complicated ideas all woven in. I mean, it involves, not micromanaging, trusting, delegating. Like, is learning to say no has come up here.
Oh yes, learn to say no. Yep. And
Delegate when possible.
decluttering. Yeah.
Declutter. Woo.
Less stuff to manage. Yes.
But I know that people are going to be thinking, like, I can't possibly, I mean, especially at work, when you feel, what are you supposed to say? No to your boss? Who are you you're saying no to your colleagues? I mean, that feels like the opposite of what people want to do.
Okay. So like a blanket no usually like doesn't go over well when it's your boss, right? So here's a more sophisticated kind of strategic way to say that is, Meredith, that's a great idea. Yeah, I definitely see the potential there. So what do you think, Meredith? Should we put this other project on hold to run with this amazing idea you came up with?
Right.
I'm thinking we're almost done this other project. Why don't we finish that? And then I'd say by December 11th, we're ready to jump on this new project that you've suggested. What do you think, Meredith?
Right.
Don't call your boss, Margaret. Don't do that.
Don't. And no.
Yeah.
That sounds good. So basically you're negotiating, you're saying
You're negotiating.
yes, but.
Yeah. So what a lot of
you have to know what your list has already
gotta know that. Yeah. So your map is a great communication tool with your leader. And a lot of leaders think more is more. And we know more is not more. Like they're not considering the fact that we're spreading ourselves thin. And this is one of the greatest challenges in so many organizations. So it is so important for us to, in a collaborative, team-based way, negotiate with those who are, of influence, asking us to do more than is reasonable.
Right.
So I know we want to leave some time for questions. So what I want to do is let's just wrap this up. Just do a recap of the key principles that we covered today so that everyone can really have these lessons, these strategies, take them far, right? Like I'd love a year from now, if we run into each other on the street, you say, oh, I'm doing it. This is great. And so build your map. And I can't wait to see your new map, Meredith. I'm so excited about that.
I'm going to have to share it on the social medias, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, let's do it.
Right.
And then manage the interruptions, right? We can manage interruptions, build your routines, and apply the simplify filter. And even better, share these principles with someone else, because then the more you share them, the more you're socializing them, they're more entrenched for you as well. Just a reminder, we will be sharing a couple of books.
Yes.
And would love some questions to answer any questions now. And while we do that, we love to get feedback. So there's been so many great insights on the chat already. We have this 1-minute feedback survey, and we just invite people to fill this feedback survey in. I'll leave that survey open. And
while people are filling that in, I just want to also, can I just reiterate, Anne, that a lot of people are asking if they're going to be getting the slides. I just want to reaffirm that no, even though the slides are fantastic, what you're going to be getting is another link to this webinar. You're going to get a recording of today's conversation. You can watch that through, make as many notes as you need to, pause it as you need to go, and hopefully absorb everything because there's been a lot, to be fair. And people are saying the slides went by really fast. Yes. Can we share the presentation with colleagues? Yes, but you only have 2 weeks to have access to the link that we're going to send you. So I hope you will take absolute advantage of it, and then, share it by all means, but then it's going to go away. Okay, questions. We have questions, and people, thank you for bringing in the questions. I know there have been questions in the chat as well, so we're going to do our best. So Elaine Chow asks, how do you suggest to manage the low important but needed transactional to-dos? So respond to that email re-QN. That's not worth the time to rank and prioritize. Memory is not cutting it. Okay, so there's the one-touch principle for the things like, hey, Meredith, if you send me an email, hey, Anne, can you give me that document, right? I'm not going to respond back saying, sure, would you, and like, if all I have to do is attach the document, I'm not going to respond back saying, sure, I'll have this to you by Monday. I'm just going to attach the document as done. It doesn't go on a list. It's just done. That's the one-touch principle, which we do for anything that requires 5 minutes or less of our time-ish, right? Okay. Ish. I've actually heard 2 minutes, and I think about the 2 minutes all the time, because it's amazing how little things do take less than 2 minutes.
A lot of things fall into that bucket. Yeah. And then, so the other thing is only read an email if you're going to deal with it.
Only read it if you're going to deal with it.
Mhm.
Right, that's an important thing because reading email, as you know, dopamine hits all over, but then
Yeah, but it creates tons of redundancy if you read it and you're like, what is this? I'm curious. Read it. Oh, yeah, I don't feel like doing that right now. Close it. I have to come back to it later and read it again.
that takes remarkable discipline.
Well, so if you batch process your email, if you protect your focus and only look at email in batches, then when you open an email, you're prepared, you have the capacity to deal with it. So it's actually all ties in together.
So you're not reading emails on your phone unless you're prepared to deal with them.
These things are great scan for urgency tools. So you're
Right.
walking between meetings and you literally have 10 seconds. You can open your email and just scan for urgency, right? If your leader, your colleague, your client, whatever is emailing you, maybe you're going to deal with that one email on your phone, which kind of sucks, but like you got to deal with it because it's urgent. You're not going to open the other emails, even though you're curious, until you're ready to process them.
Okay. And this is a tough one, but I want to put it to you anyway on behalf of Josephine, who asks, how can we get to zero inbox? This is my Everest. And I know people who have thousands of things in their inbox. Not me, but I know people. And so like, how do we do this?
Okay. So the solution is, there's two approaches. One is you could spend the next 7 weeks of your life reading and sorting and dealing with all 7,000 emails. I don't recommend that approach. The other approach, which is, it's about 2 hours of work. There's the balloons.
I need to feel like I need to set that up on my Zoom. I don't have that.
I don't know what happened. It's just the AI robots. Okay, so to get rid of the 7,000 emails, there's a secret. The fast track approach is to take all the old emails and move them over into a folder called dinosaurs. Or you can call this folder whatever you want. I call it dinosaurs. I like when people call it dinosaurs. And so what is a dinosaur? A dinosaur email is anything older than 1 month. So here we are, it's November 16th. I'm talking about any emails before October 16th, because I guarantee you this, and I'm not saying delete them. I have not said delete them. I've said move them into a folder called dinosaurs. And people think, well, October 16th, that's pretty recent. Like, what if I need those emails? But I can guarantee you this, nobody who sent you an email on October 7th woke up this morning and said, I wonder if today is the day that I get a response.
Okay.
Do you agree?
Right.
Okay.
I do,
Now,
but I've never thought about it that way.
But hold on a second. Don't move 7,000 emails at one time, because your computer will do that swirly wheel of death and then you'll be cursing me. So do a few hundred at a time. That doesn't take long. That's probably 10, 15 minutes of your time. Or ask your teenager to do it for you. So that's step one. Then step two, clean up your folder structure. I do give some suggestions in one of the books we're doing as a prize. I think I have a blog about this on my website also. Most folder structures are like a bad reno pieced together over time. They could use some cleanup. And then you use the 3D approach, which is you go bottom up. So you go to October 17th and you're going kind of, oh yeah, that one's done. File, done. Oh, this is a task. Let me add it to my map. I'm not telling you to do a month worth of work. I'm telling you to organize a month worth of work. That's a very different thing. So the outstanding work in your inbox, add it to your map and file it away. Your map is your reminder. And when you go to work on it, you'll go to the folder, open up what you need and do the work. And then you get to, now I don't really think you need to get to an inbox 0. I like inbox less than a screen, or inbox 10. Like, Meredith, if there's an email from you, I know I'm going to do it within the next 24 hours. I'm okay to leave that in my inbox.
Right. Okay. All right. We've still got such great stuff coming in on the chat, and forgive me, everybody, but we always like to try to respect the time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what I always do at the end of our webinar. So firstly, if you are waiting, standing by to find out about when you're going to win your book, we have taken note of everyone who's here today. The people who've won are going to be getting emails shortly to let them know that they have won one of and four books. By the way, you can buy those in bookstores and online, so you don't have to wait to win one. You could go and buy one. And then what's going to happen is you can just trust that's what's going to happen. And then those, we will be sending out the thank you email and probably mentioning who won, but maybe not. Otherwise, you just got to ask everybody if they won. I'm not sure. Anyway, in the interest of time, I do want to let our audience know that there are, of course, other learning opportunities through Queen's Executive Education. We always let people know because there's lots of opportunities at Queen's for learning. Today, I'm letting you know about a 2-day virtual program called Managerial Decision Making. It's a virtual program. It will be running in January 23rd and 24th in the afternoons, so 2 days in the afternoon. For more information, you can visit smithqueens.com/exec-ed. So I hope you will check that out. There's also lots of other opportunities for learning, so virtual and in person. Also, I know that you all love these webinars and we love doing them, and we hope that you'll join us for our next one, which when we'll be looking at the issue of climate reporting, a session on what your firm needs to know, coming up on December 14th. There's the slide. It's at noon, so keep your eyes on your inbox for info on how to register for that one. And of course, we'll have many, many more webinars coming up in the new year. So, Anne, thank you very much for your fine presentation today. It really was such a delight to spend an hour with you. I know our audience got a lot out of it, and hopefully we can have you back, because I think probably we need to do a session on email. It's probably going to tell us that we need to do that. So I think people learned a lot, and I really hope maybe we'll get some feedback on how their lives have been massively improved thanks to their maps. So, and mine as well. I'll try to get on that right away.
Thank you so much, Meredith. It was so much fun to work with you today.
It was great. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.